WWE King and Queen of the Ring 2024 is officially in the books, and it was a very good show from beginning to almost the very end. And that ending is something that we're going to be talking about quite a bit in this video. But for the most part, this was a very good show. It was another WWE B-tier premium live event that focused on the quality of individual matches as opposed to the quantity of those matches. And in my opinion, once again, focusing on the quality of these matches delivered a great 3-hour show that felt like 2 hours. So today we're going to be reviewing the show. We're going to be talking about the crowd, about the matches, about the decisions, and my overall thoughts. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's jump into it. First, I want to talk about the crowd in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, because you guys were absolutely fantastic. I know that there is a negative connotation with the Saudi Arabian crowds just not being very excitable. And it was especially a fear considering how good the French crowd was for Backlash in 2024. Now, we weren't expecting the Saudi crowd to even come close to the French crowd because, in my opinion, the French crowd at Backlash was arguably the greatest crowd in professional wrestling history, but I wasn't expecting the Saudi crowd to come out and be this good. They were loud from beginning to end, and there were moments of excitement that felt like we were at a European football match. And on top of that, they actually popped and made noise for the women. So Saudi Arabia, congratulations. This is the best crowd that you've given us for one of your premium live events. What's interesting is that last year I had a few viewers from Saudi Arabia that were explaining to me that the crowd in Jeddah is just generally better and more excitable. So maybe it really is about what city within Saudi Arabia they are, because at Crown Jewel, they were okay at best, and that was in Riyadh, while this one was in Jeddah, and in my opinion, they were way better. Maybe we'll start getting some Jeddah versus Riyadh beef in the comments section of this. I don't know. All I can really comment on was that the crowd was really, really good, and I'm really proud of the Saudi crowd for coming out to play for the entire show, including the women. And I do hope that maybe this starts to stop the narrative of people saying that they just shouldn't do women's matches in Saudi Arabia, period. I used to be of that mentality. I used to believe that the women should just get their own premium live event, maybe the weekend before or the weekend after the Saudi shows. But after educating myself a little bit more and learning a bit more about the situation, I'm of the mind that you should continue to try and break boundaries where you can. So I appreciate that the WWE, even if for years the women were getting little to no reaction, continued to persevere through and through and through until we finally arrived to the point where the Saudi crowd gets excited over women's matches. So Saudi crowd, congratulations. You get a thumbs up on the Santi Zap review. Now let's talk about the actual matches itself, and we'll talk about the pre-show match that we had between Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill taking on Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. I'm gonna be super quick here because this was a pre-show match and a match that no one expected to have any other outcome than the outcome that we ultimately got, which was Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill winning in spectacular fashion. I also want to point out that this is just another very random, very out of nowhere pre-show match for the women's tag titles that have once again involved Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. It seems like they can just get a match in a pre-show whenever they want. But really what I want to highlight from this match was Bianca Belair's and Jade Cargill's chemistry as a tag team, because it continues to get better and better. And I think that chemistry was best highlighted by how awesome their tag team finisher was. It might be like the most devastating looking tag team finisher in the WWE today. It was wicked. But ultimately, this was a match that never really had any drama. It was really there to warm up the crowd, but never really get them so excited to the point where they were going to be exhausted for the rest of the show. It did its part, which was to showcase the two big superstars in Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, while also giving a smaller spotlight to less popular WWE superstars like Candice, or how Jade Cargill would say Candy LeRae, as well as Indy Hartwell. And it's also good to see the women's tag titles getting some love on a premium live event, even if it is on a pre-show. At least it's on there. One last thing that I'll say about this is that I would just like every WWE premium live event to have one pre-show match. I think that'd be nice. I think that would open up so many more opportunities and possibilities for superstars that a lot of us believe deserve that premium live event rub, but maybe they aren't in some super entrenched feud that requires them being on the main show. Bring back pre-shows, because if we're gonna get decent matches like this, then I'm all for it. And if it's gonna showcase names like this, then that's, again, I'm all for it. So the pre-show as a whole, the entire presentation of the pre-show, including the match, also gets a thumbs up. Now let's talk about the WWE Women's World Championship match between Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch. Now, before we talk about this match, it's important to note that during the pre-show, we had a moment between Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan, where Dominic Mysterio made it clear to Liv that he flew all the way out here to Saudi Arabia to make sure that she, Liv Morgan, did not walk out as the champion, because that championship still belonged to Mommy Rhea Ripley. And that's important to note because Dominic Mysterio plays an incredibly huge part in the finish of this match, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But before that, let's talk about the actual match itself, what we were given by the two women that were advertised for this match, because I think it was a really, really good technical match, and I think a very good Becky Lynch match in a fantastic Liv Morgan match. I haven't really seen a good Becky Lynch match, at least in my opinion, in terms of the type of wrestling that I like, since her match against Rhea Ripley. I feel like in terms of her matches on Monday Night Raw, she's really just been walking through the paces, but that didn't really seem to be the case here. Becky Lynch was pulling out all the stops. She had some great technical moves, some great counters. Liv Morgan had some great counters as well. Both of them looked really good and really crisp in this match. Like, overall, just the match itself, like, not talking about finish or results or storyline, I really liked what these two ladies did in the ring. And I think it was made better by the fact that the Saudi crowd was actually into this and actually making a lot of noise for both women. It's interesting to note that they were actually rooting for both of them. There was no clear-cut bad woman in this match, at least with that crowd. They were rooting for both Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan. But really, the talking point of this match was what I consider to be a brilliant finish. Now, in my opinion, in terms of calling back to things in the past, I think this would have been better served at Clash of the Castle, because that's 2 years ago when Dominic Mysterio became Dirty Dominic Mysterio and turned on Rey Mysterio and Edge at Clash of the Castle. So I think it would have been cool if Dominic Mysterio came back to Clash at the Castle to do yet another dastardly thing like he did here, even if it wasn't on purpose. At least we're led to believe that it's not on purpose, because at one point during the match, we have this awesome top rope superplex from Becky Lynch onto Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan is on the ground. The referee is checking in on Liv Morgan. Dominic Mysterio grabs a chair, slides it over to Becky Lynch, telling her to use it. Dominic distracts the ref for the purposes of having Becky Lynch use the chair, but Becky Lynch, she's too good of a person to actually use some weapons and some shenanigans, and she hesitates in terms of using the weapon, and that opens it up for Liv Morgan to hit her with a DDT, and then an Oblivion, and thus giving the championship and new world champion Liv Morgan to the world. I do think that this was a good decision. I do believe that the best end result of this feud was to give Liv Morgan the championship. So I'm happy that the WWE ultimately made that decision, even if I think it might have been better served at a different show, but it doesn't change the fact that it was delivered incredibly well here as well. And it also means that we still continue to walk away with even more questions. And that's usually a sign of a really well-told narrative, because even though this match is done, even though the title changed, you're still walking away wanting to know, what do we do next? What's the next part? What happens to Dominic Mysterio? What's Rhea Ripley thinking? How is Liv Morgan going to react to the fact that Dominic accidentally or maybe on purpose hurt her? What do we do with Becky Lynch? These are all great questions to have coming out of this match, and it means typically if you have these types of questions that you want to see more, and if you want to see more, it means that the overall package was delivered really well. So thumbs up. Again, we're off to a great start here. Next up, we have the absolutely phenomenal triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship involving champion Sami Zayn going up against Chad Gable and Bronson Reed. I want to also shout out the entrances, because the crowd really helped make these entrances. Chad Gable came out with both Otis as well as Maxine, but told Maxine to stay back, and he was getting showered with boos and the timely "you suck" chants a la Kurt Angle back in the Ruthless Aggression era days. And then Sami Zayn comes out, and of course they just love Sami Zayn over there. The pop was monumental. It was so loud. They were singing his song from beginning all the way to the end. It was a really, really beautiful sight. Again, something that the Saudi audience enhanced, which is not something that we typically see from the Saudi audience. So good on you, Saudi guys. In terms of the actual match itself, this was a brilliant triple threat. There are two types of triple threat matches, and there's one that I love and one one that I love less. The one that I love less is the type of triple threat where it's always a one-on-one and there's always somebody hurt on the outside. The type of triple threat that I love, and the type of triple threat that this was, is when all three guys are part of the offense from the beginning of the match all the way through to the end, and there's very few instances of one-on-one. Because usually what this leads to is awesome moves that get comboed from one guy to another guy to another guy. And we saw that with certain moves, like for example, we had electric chairs in this. We had a human centipede style ankle lock where everyone was in an ankle lock. We had an awesome sequence where people are delivering German suplexes to each other, all the way to the point where Chad Gable German suplexes both of them. It was really, really well done in terms of the actual in-ring match choreography. Bronson Reed, to me, was the standout of this because he was pulling out all the moves for this premium live event, because he was looking like a 300-pound Rey Mysterio out there doing beautiful suicida dives and doing moonsaults. Are you kidding me? When did the WWE start getting these big meaty men that are just doing moonsaults in the middle of matches casually? Because add Bronson Reed to the list of these big meaty athletic men doing flips in the sky. So yes, the in-ring work rate of this match was magnifique, and I would say the best match of the night quality-wise. But it also had great twists and turns in terms of the story, because we had Otis out there who was supposed to be the trump card for Chad Gable. And during their entrance, he told Otis, remember the plan, stick to the plan. And that plan was him attacking Bronson Reed and Sami Zayn at the right point of the match. And Otis was complying. He attacked Bronson Reed, and then he goes to attack Sami Zayn, but then hesitates, and it gets so bad to the point that Chad Gable goes out there, pulls Otis's hair, screams in his face, slaps his face, and then Otis actually does go for the attack, but misses and hits Chad Gable, leaving Bronson Reed in the ring alone, with Sami Zayn being the only one that hasn't been hurt by Otis to hit the haluva kick and pick up the victory. It was really, really well done. And it was a really good way to get out of a really predictable finish, because I think me, you, and everyone on this planet predicted Bronson Reed to eat the pin, because the big money match clearly that they're setting up for is for another Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn match at another premium live event. And the best way to get there is by Bronson Reed taking the pin. So they found a really creative way to get to that really obvious endpoint, which was Bronson Reed taking the pin for Sami Zayn, but they did it in a really creative way where I was still enthralled and on the edge of my seat. And that all comes down to amazing match choreography. So look at here, another thumbs up. Next up, we have the Queen of the Ring final match between Nia Jax and Lyra Valkyria. This was the match I was actually the most nervous about, because Lyra Valkyria is a relative unknown to the wider WWE Universe fan base, and I really thought that there was going to be little to no reaction from the Saudi Arabian fan base to Lyra Valkyria, but I was wrong. They like Lyra Valkyria, and they were also very, very loud, whether it was for booing purposes, for Nia Jax. So again, this is another women's match that got a pretty solid reaction from the Saudi Arabian crowd. And I have to say, this may be one of Nia Jax's better matches, and I think I've realized why. Nia Jax works incredibly well with much smaller, incredibly athletic and agile women, because it allows her to really just throw them around, ragdoll them, and really look like a monster, while also allowing those much smaller women to look like they're taking out a Goliath. And maybe that's why, like, at least in the past, I've never really gelled with Nia Jax versus Charlotte Flair type of matches, for example. But Lyra Valkyria is the perfect profile fit to have a good match with Nia Jax, and she did. However, I do think that this was the weakest match of the night in terms of in-ring work rate, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because one of the things that's going to make this PLE stand out in the long run is how good the in-ring work rate was. I think this is the worst match of the night in terms of in-ring work rate, but it's still a good match in terms of in-ring work rate. What stole the show for this was the absolutely wicked finish. That was so nasty, where Lyra Valkyria is trying to hit Nia Jax with a sunset powerbomb. She's struggling with the weight of Nia Jax, only for Nia Jax to counter while Lyra Valkyria is still standing into a bonsai drop that quite seriously looked like it completely spewed all of Lyra Valkyria's guts out of her mouth because it just looked so violent. So now I'm gonna gas up this match a bit more, because even though I think it's the match that was the weakest in terms of work rate, I think it might have been the match with the most memorable finish out of all of them. And when we talk about the main event, you're gonna quickly realize that I truly value how matches finish and how I feel after the matches. And the finish of this match made me feel like I really enjoyed this, in that I watched something really important and really meaningful. So overall, the decision to have Nia Jax become the tribal queen, the queen of the ring, Queen Nia, whatever it is that you want to call her, I think it's the right call. I do think that Lyra Valkyria is going to be a main event player for the rest of her career on the main roster, but I think it would have just been entirely too soon to put this on her. Now, I know that you can say people like Brock Lesnar won it in their rookie year, etc., but it's just not the same comparison here. So once again, look at this, another thumbs up. I'm really enjoying this premium live event so far. So we went from the Queen of the Ring final to the King of the Ring final between Gunther taking on Randy Orton in what immediately felt like a really, really important match. From the commentary to the crowd to the really long entrance that Randy Orton had, it just sort of felt like we were about to see something that maybe we might never see again. We'll find out later from social media and Triple H that there is a reason as to why we are going to see this again. But when I was seeing the start of this match, it truly, to be a bit cheesy here, it felt like once in a lifetime. This truly felt like a dream match. And it was a dream match that, in my opinion, really delivered a really unique style of match. Because this was never going to be Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, Bronson Reed in terms of the fast-paced technical nature that brought. This was something else entirely. While I was live streaming, I actually compared this to like two super geniuses just having a battle of wits and who could outsmart and out-strategize the other. Because these guys aren't doing flips, these guys aren't doing crazy suplexes, these guys were being really precise with their moveset. We saw a lot of working of joints, of working the knee. We saw Gunther just annihilating Randy Orton's chest. His chest quite seriously look like uncooked hamburger meat. The first third of the match was a lot of striking, very little grappling, a lot of really painful looking European uppercuts, slaps, punches, kicks, and of course chops. Something that was really cool, unique that this match did was that it had an entire finishing sequence halfway through the match, because there is a moment where Gunther is hitting his finishers. He hits the classic, let me chain up a bunch of finishers here, let me do a splash. He goes up to go hit another splash. He rolls out of it because Randy moves out of the way, and then Randy hits an RKO, and you think that Randy's about to pick up the victory because it was a clean RKO from out of nowhere, but Gunther rolls out of the ring, and the match would go on to continue for another 10-15 minutes. So I thought that was a really, really neat thing to add, just a complete finishing sequence in the middle of a match. I like that. I also have to just bow down to the mastery that is Randy Orton in terms of his body language, his psychology, and him selling the back injury. Because just like at Elimination Chamber earlier this year, I had people in my live stream saying, oh no, Randy Orton is hurt. His back, he can barely move. But I already knew that he did this at Elimination Chamber a few months ago, where it looked like he was very, very injured. But I've just come to realize that Randy Orton may just be the best actor and seller in the WWE today. Honestly, Randy Orton could be a fish and he could convince you that he was drowning. That's how good Randy Orton is at making you believe the pain that he's going through. I compared this match earlier to two geniuses trying to outwit each other, and that was ultimately the finish of the match, where we have Gunther putting Randy Orton in a half Boston Crab with Randy Orton's knee hurt, Randy Orton rolling through Gunther. Then we have Gunther re-rolling up Randy Orton and counting the 3. So Randy Orton didn't lose because he was powerbombed into infinity like how Gunther typically wins his matches. He was outmaneuvered. He was out-generaled by the ring general, even if Randy's shoulders were not fully down on the mat. And it was the first thing I called out. I said Randy's shoulders were not down, and I'm really happy to say that the WWE is going to continue to pay that off, because they mentioned that they're gonna run Gunther versus Randy Orton again because of Randy's shoulders not being fully down. Whether that was the plan all along or this is just a pivot because of the mistake that was made by the referee, either way, I'm excited because this match was truly brilliant. From beginning to end, how special this match felt, the fact that Gunther won, because I don't think that Randy needs to be King of the Ring to earn himself a championship opportunity. At the end of the day, a King of the Ring moniker means nothing to Randy Orton. The guy's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. He could enter the Hall of Fame tomorrow if he wanted to, and he doesn't need to win anything to earn a championship opportunity. He could just go to Nick Aldis and say, I want Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. Just like that. But Gunther really is elevated in terms of his overall aura and career by winning here. So I think it was a really great match, and they made a great booking decision to have Gunther become your King General. I loved it. I think there's another thumbs up. So far, perfect show. And now let's talk about the main event. This is what has a lot of people talking. It's Cody Rhodes going in as the WWE Undisputed Champion, taking on challenger Logan Paul. So before the bell even rings, I have a couple of problems with this match that I want to just air out. The first one is actually the fact that they removed the United States Championship from being part of this match. The fact that you could walk out with double champions is actually what made this match really intriguing, because it had us all wondering how the hell they're gonna get out of that dead-end street, which is giving somebody another set of 2 titles, which is something that no one wants to see. Which meant I was really curious and really intrigued as to how they would finish this match in a way where they could each keep their titles. But by removing the United States Championship from the picture, it pretty much all but guaranteed that Logan Paul was going to lose to Cody Rhodes. And when they removed the United States Championship from the picture, to me, that is when I lost all hope that Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six, whatever it is that they're gonna go by, was going to debut. Because had both titles been on the line, that would have been the perfect reason to send out Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Six to make sure it ends in a disqualification, but in a type of disqualification that would still leave everyone happy, because we got something new in the debut or re-debut repackaging of Bo Dallas. But that wasn't the case. The second that they removed the US title from the picture, I had a feeling that the Wyatt Six and Bo Dallas wasn't going to appear, and that was the case. Second, right away, this felt like a glorified exhibition match that I had a feeling wasn't gonna have a part 2, wasn't gonna have a what do we do next. And right off the bat, to me, it was evident that this was a match that was meant to just be special for the audience in Saudi Arabia for that one night, because they started with the Saudi Arabian comedian being the one to do the announcement call, and that was really, really odd. To me, it felt gimmicky, and when I can sniff out gimmicky, to me, it felt like whatever the end result of this match was gonna be was not something that was gonna have substance beyond just this night. And that did end up being the case. We're gonna talk about the finish, but the actual match itself, here you go, folks, was fucking fantastic. Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul was so much fun. Not only were the moves in this match objectively insane, we have a outside from the barricade to the table Oz cutter, Cody cutter, whatever it is that you want to call it. We have Logan Paul using brass knuckles. We have a frog splash from the top to the outside through the table. We even had Cody Rhodes pull out a vertebreaker, which is like one of the most dangerous moves in professional wrestling, a move that has been banned from the WWE for as long as I can remember. And I really like the narrative that they were telling in the match as well, which is that Logan Paul is a kid that won't stick to his word of not using shenanigans and not using the brass knuckles, because of course he used the brass knuckles. And I loved what they were doing between Logan Paul and the commentary team. It looked like Logan Paul was gonna get into a serious fight with both Corey Graves and Michael Cole because of the things that Michael Cole was saying regarding Logan Paul and the fact that he's a loser and the fact that he doesn't keep his word, the fact that he's dirty, etc. We even had a ref down moment, which is something that's typically been reserved for Roman Reigns matches. It was kind of nice to see the ref take a bump again. And in that bump, Cody Rhodes hit the vertebreaker, tried to go for the count, but the ref was down. And then eventually Logan Paul gives Cody Rhodes a nasty low blow. And then Logan Paul is about to win the match with the ref down, with Cody Rhodes just getting up from the low blow. He's about to eat the brass knuckles. And then that comedian guy from Saudi Arabia Arabia that did the match announcement then gets involved and stops Logan Paul from actually being able to hit the move, which opens it up for Logan Paul to eat 3 crossroads and lose. Wait, was it 3 crossroads? You're gonna have to remind me in the comments. Sorry, it's been a couple hours since I watched the show. Either way, it was the celebrity that impacted the finish of the match. And I instantly had Vietnam-style flashbacks to SummerSlam when Jon Stewart got his ass involved in a match that main evented a premium live event between the WWE champion and the United States champion. They ended this match with a Saudi Arabian version of Jon Stewart at SummerSlam. And I don't mind celebrity involvements. A lot of people actually tried to say that this is more similar to Bad Bunny and Dominic Mysterio, and to a degree, sure, but that's more so in terms of the actual physical way that it went down. Because at the very least, they paid off the Bad Bunny and Judgment Day saga with Puerto Rico the very next month. I don't foresee there being a what's next, a part 2, a match between Logan Paul and the Saudi Arabian comedian. And because I don't think that there's gonna be a second step, because I don't think that there's anything beyond that, it made this match ultimately feel like a glorified exhibition match. Think back to what I was saying about Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio and Becky Lynch. How many questions I walked out of after that match, which had me looking forward to the next thing. I can't do that with the ending of Logan Paul and Cody Rhodes, because it was all meant to start and end here in Saudi Arabia. Nothing is likely to be continued from this. And when it's not meant to be continued, it means that, like I said already, it was meant to start and end on that night, which to me is just a big fancy house show match. A very good, fancy, glorified house show match, because I loved Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes, but that finish really, really irked me. And it's a shame that that's how they end the PLE, because I loved everything else. Everything else about the show was really, really good. But when you end something like that the way that they did, it's like the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this show. And ultimately, I'm aware that that's an unfair way to think about this show, but it's just human psychology, human nature. And last time I checked, I'm human, so I'm prone to having these feelings. So here's the thing. The match, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up because I can't not give it a thumbs up, but the booking decision, the finish is an emphatic thumbs down. I really, really did not like it. And just as I predicted, because they removed the US title from the picture, because we knew that the match was likely gonna end in Cody Rhodes actually winning, there was no Uncle Howdy moment after the match. And now I'm concerned that they're taking too long to reveal the monster that's in the closet. We'll see though. I still like the QR codes and playing the what's what game and following the clues, but at some point or another, something's gotta give, and they need to give us something. But ultimately, I think the show is great. It gets multiple thumbs up from me. I don't quite think it's as good as Backlash, but it was a good show. All right, folks, that's my review. This is your opportunity to let me know down in the comments what you thought overall, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.